Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cristo Rey Network College Fair. This is a panel session, Financial Aid 101. We have a wonderful presenter here for you today. A few housekeeping items. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. You can use, and we encourage you to use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. This is the last session. However, the presentations are being recorded and will be available at strivescan.com/Cristo-Rey. I will turn it over to Bianca.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So really looking forward to presenting to you guys today. I welcome guardians, seniors, and juniors to our second annual virtual college fair. We'll be going over Financial Aid 101, but it's important to note that this is sort of the first step in many steps that you'll be taking throughout this year as a senior to complete your financial aid process. So a few introductions. My name is Bianca Paiz. I'm the Director of College Initiatives here at the Cristo Rey Network. And along with Stephanie Arias, Vice President of College Initiatives at the Cristo Rey Network, we offer students from the Cristo Rey Network professional development tools and access points to get connected to the right kinds of colleges so that they are the most successful after they leave our school. So a few just like housekeeping items here. You know, as Sarah mentioned, the webinar will be recorded and shared. And please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A section. So we'll spend a couple minutes going through financial aid terminology. Then we'll spend a big chunk of the time talking about how do we receive financial aid. And then we'll end our time together with some common financial aid myths, and we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So here's the scope of what financial aid looks like, or what the calendar will look like for you as a senior. So in August and September, you're likely gathering financial aid stuff. So it's taxes, your parents' taxes, your taxes, W-2s. And this is going to be for 2021. Okay. And then in October is where you start to complete the financial aid application, FAFSA. We'll talk more about FAFSA, but this is sort of the meat of where financial aid comes from. In November and December, depending on the schools that you apply to, you may also have to complete the CSS profile. And that's a more complicated financial aid package that we won't go through today, but your college counselors are here to help you. And then in January and February and in March, you start to receive college acceptances. And we're so excited for you. We know that you will receive many, many college acceptances. And when that happens, it kind of kicks off the second step of financial aid, which is verification. So for all of those colleges where you get accepted, you will receive a notification to fill out forms. And those forms are just to verify that the information you put down on FAFSA aligns with what your situation is financially. Once the verification forms have been completed, they'll then either send you via email or through an online portal your award letter. And your award letter is essentially the amount of money that you'll receive to attend that institution, and then also the cost for your family. After you've received your award letter, you'll need to compare all of your options, all of your financial aid options. And then by May 1st, you have to make a decision. So between now and May 1st, we are working towards not only getting accepted to college, but also completing the financial aid application pieces so that we know exactly which college is most affordable for our family. Once you accept the financial aid, you'll sign some loan documents if you're planning on taking out loans. And then in July, you'll receive your first bill. So that's the whole sort of scope. And here's another look at that. So as I mentioned, in August, you're collecting documents. And more specifically, as I mentioned, the 2021 federal taxes, right? The 1040. If you, a student, didn't work in 2021, then you don't have to worry about getting your taxes. But if your parents worked, then they have to make sure that they get their taxes as well. You'll need a copy of the Social Security number, of your Social Security number, and you'll also need to create an FSA ID. In September, you should discuss with your family your financial situation. Talk about what the maximum out of pocket your family can pay towards college. What's the absolute maximum? And where do you guys want to sort of fall? Discuss affordability with your college counselor in the fall so that they have an idea of the kinds of colleges they should put on your list. And you should also discuss payment options, like, are you going to do a payment plan? Are you guys going to take out loans? In October, as I mentioned, which we are in now, it's time for you to complete FAFSA. And there's a link on to FAFSA here where you will apply. And we encourage everyone to complete FAFSA by January 1st. As I mentioned, depending on the school that you apply to, you may have to complete the CSS profile. Linked on this site as well is all of the colleges that require the CSS profile. And once you complete the FAFSA, you'll want to write down your EFC. Your EFC is included in your student aid report. And you'll want to turn in that student aid report to your counselor so that they can review it and make sure that there just aren't any errors. We'll talk about EFC and student aid reports later, but this gives you sort of a scope of what happens in October. In February, you start to receive those award letters, right? You'll want to call the financial aid offices, parents or students, and ask them, is there anything, any form or any requirements, is there anything that I have to do to submit before I receive my financial aid award letter? Once you submit all those forms, again, you receive the award letter, and you should share that award letter with your counselor. Together with the counselor, the family member, the student, you're comparing those award letters, you're analyzing, and then finally, by May 1st, you are making a decision. I suggest that you do not stop getting award letters until at minimum you have 3, right? You want to compare 3 financial options, 3 college options. And I know that you will be accepted to more than 3 schools. Finally, in July, you will receive your bill. This is when you want to review the bill. You'll want to go over that first semester payment. And you should call the financial aid office to ensure that there aren't any other requirements that you have to complete. If you are planning on using a payment plan, now is the time to enroll in July. So that's a snapshot. There's a lot there, but we're working through this month by month. So as I mentioned, financial aid is the name of the game, right? And financial aid in short just refers to all of the funding that is available to you to make up the difference between what the student can afford and then the cost of college. And financial aid comes from a lot of different places, but those places oftentimes include the federal government, the state government, the institution or the college, right? And then sometimes external places that have external scholarships. Generally, financial aid is broken up into 2 sections. The first is need-based. So that's based off of after you put down information into FAFSA. FAFSA will essentially tell you what your need-based is, what your EFC is. So need-based, based off of that. And then there's merit-based, which is based off of academics, achievements, leadership, and other skills. So if you don't walk away with anything, walk away with this one thing. If you think you cannot afford college, I want you to think about that again. I can tell you right now that there is a lot of financial aid out there. And there are affordable colleges for you. And there are affordable 4-year colleges for you. It's just about taking the right steps and applying to the right schools. So types of financial aid. As I mentioned, there's scholarships, there are some grants, there are loans, and then there's work study. Scholarships and grants, that's gift aid. You don't have to pay that back. You want to get as much of that as possible, right? The second group is called self-help aid. Those are student loans. And then there's work study, where you work on campus and you earn money. Here are the kinds of grants and scholarships. So federal grants, there's something called the Pell Grant, and that's the most common federal grant, but there are a couple of other grants. The federal Pell Grant is based off of need. It's based off of what you put into FAFSA, right? State grants, that's funded by the state. So I'm in Illinois, and the state of Illinois provides students who stay within the state and go to school within Illinois, they provide students additional money. With state grants, you have to be really, really cognizant of the deadlines for FAFSA. So for the federal Pell Grant, there's no deadline. You can apply whenever you want, and generally you'll get it, right? The Pell Grant, if you qualify. With state grants, there's oftentimes a deadline associated. So it's really, really important that you review your state's FAFSA deadlines. And there's a link on this slide for you to review what those deadlines are. The third terminology that I want to go through is scholarships. So this is, of course, free money. And this oftentimes comes from colleges or an outside organization, right? This is provided to students based off of their achievements. You got great grades, you can play the saxophone, you're an amazing athlete. So we're going to provide additional scholarships. Students receive the most scholarships from the college that they are applying to or have been accepted to. We see students receiving $70,000, $60,000 a year from a college, but oftentimes only see about $1,000 to $2,000 coming from outside organizations. So if you're ever going to spend a ton of time applying to scholarships, you actually want to spend more time applying to the right kinds of colleges that provide a ton of scholarships. And we'll tell you which of those colleges are. Other terminology, as I mentioned, is loans, right? So we've got federal loans and then we have private loans. And so federal loans come from the US government, and some of them are subsidized in interest. And all that means is that there's no interest if you take out a federal loan. There's no interest while you're in college for the subsidized loan. There's also some unsubsidized loans that you can take out. These loans, the federal loans, are also the ones that are eligible for forgiveness. So you may have heard online or on social media, student loan forgiveness. Well, the loans that are being forgiven are the federal loans. And then there are private loans. So these are loans for education, and they're often provided by a bank. The last terminology on here that I want to go through is federal work study. And this provides students with a part-time job to help with expenses. It's partially subsidized by the federal government. And most of that money will come in the terms of a paycheck that is sent to the student monthly or bi-monthly. And the student can do with that what they want. They can either pay their tuition, or they can use it to pay books or for other miscellaneous expenses. So that's some terminology, and that was pretty quick. Again, if there's any terminology or any point that you want to reference back, this will be recorded for you to use later on. So let's talk about the process of financial aid. So this is, in short, the process to receiving financial aid. It starts with FAFSA, and that's the time that we're in right now. It then moves into verification, award letters, loans, forms, and then finally receiving your financial aid. So let's get started with the first one, FAFSA. So FAFSA must be completed annually. And what I mean by that is you complete it in your senior year, and then you have to do it again sophomore year, and then again your junior year of college, and then again, actually that's the last time you need to apply for it, junior year of college. So you apply for it your senior year of high school, your freshman year of college, your sophomore year of college, and then your junior year of college. There's more than $185 million in financial aid assistance, and FAFSA is where you begin to receive that money. The application is free. There are a lot of websites out there that are scams. So it's really, really important that you're going to the right site. But a quick tip is if there's ever a fee for that application, it's probably a scam. Okay. Always refer to the websites that we are providing on this presentation. So when you complete FAFSA, you open yourself up to grants from the federal government and the state government, scholarships from colleges, federal loans, and work study. So what do you need to know about FAFSA? One, dependent students must include their parents' taxes. For the 2023-2024 application, families will use the 2021 federal taxes. Without completing the FAFSA or the verification process every year, You will not remain eligible for loans, scholarships, and grants. You have to do it every year. The FAFSA opens up on October 1st, and you should do it as soon as possible. Why should you apply to FAFSA early? As I mentioned, state grants are often first come, first serve. In Illinois, if you lose out on that money on the Illinois MAP grant, you're losing out on $7,200. So it's in your best interest to apply for FAFSA early to ensure that you are eligible or that you receive all of the money that you're eligible for. Grants are limited. If students file FAFSA after the suspension deadline or after the suspension date, they will not receive this money for that school year. And the way to apply is that you could do it online at studentaid.gov or through the mobile app called My Student Aid. So this is what the form looks like. Or this is what the website looks like at studentaid.gov. And a couple tips here. On the right-hand side, the box highlights the English and the Spanish option. So if your parents speak Spanish or if you prefer Spanish, feel free to click through or toggle between Spanish and English. And then you'll want to click on FAFSA forms and then click on complete the FAFSA form. So who should complete FAFSA? This is actually a really important question. Every US citizen and eligible non-citizen should complete FAFSA. Who's an eligible non-citizen? Well, if you are a US permanent resident with a permanent resident card, you are an eligible non-citizen. There are other conditional permanent residents, specifically the I-55-1C. If you are confused to whether or not you qualify, please talk to your college counselor. Should students complete the FAFSA if they are not 100% sure if they're going to college? Absolutely. As I mentioned before, there's a little bit of a deadline and a little bit of a first come, first serve. And so if you apply now and you make a decision later on that you do want to go to college, that financial aid will be available to you. What if your parents are undocumented? Should you apply to FAFSA? Absolutely. As long as you, the student, are eligible, as long as you, the student, is a US citizen or eligible non-citizen, you can access and have the right to access federal and state financial aid. Parents need to, if your parents are undocumented, they will just need to print out the signature page and then mail it in. It takes about 7 to 10 days to process. What if you think you're ineligible for aid because your parents maybe make too much money? Well, all eligible students should fill out FAFSA despite financial assistance assumptions. Colleges use your EFC to create an award letter. And this also includes merit and other scholarships. And so it's in your best interest to complete FAFSA no matter what, if you, the student, are a US citizen or eligible non-citizen. When should you do the FAFSA? Well, you should have a goal to complete FAFSA no later than January 1st. Truly, ideally in October, but by January 1st should be the hard deadline. What information is needed? So you'll need the student's social security number. Make sure that it's correct. Oftentimes, this is the first barrier to receiving financial aid. The student has memorized the social security number and it ends up being one number off, right? So make sure that you're referring to the actual card. If you're a permanent resident, make sure that you're referring to your alien registration number. You'll want to gather the records of income. So parent and student 2021 federal income taxes, W-2s, and any other records of income, like from your business, child support paid or received, and other untaxed income, like from your retirement account. You'll also want to gather information about your assets, such as savings, certificates of deposit, stock options, bonds, 529 plans, and investments in real estate and your business and or if you have a farm. The biggest one here is your investments in real estate. If you have an investment property in real estate, you'll want to identify or you'll want to figure out what your net worth is, or not your net worth is, what that real estate net worth is, right? So what the debt is versus what it's valued. And finally, you'll need your FSA ID. You can create an FSA ID at the link, but you'll need your social security number before to make sure that you create that FSA ID. So that's what you'll need to complete FAFSA. And once you answer all of those questions on FAFSA, which there are workshops happening all over the country at our high schools, but once you complete it, you'll receive a student aid report, and it looks like the photo on the left-hand side. The student aid report includes all of those questions that you answered, all of those responses, as well as your expected family contribution, or your EFC. Outside of the EFC, it will also include how much of the Pell Grant you were eligible for. So this is really important. So once you've completed your FAFSA, you'll want to refer to your EFC, that number. You'll want to write that down somewhere. And then you'll also want to check to see how much of the Pell Grant you are eligible for. That's that free money that we were referring to. What is an EFC though, right? So an EFC is based off of the income that you provided and the household, the number of people in your household. And it's in short a measure of the family's financial strength. This is coming from the Department of Education. And your EFC will remain the same throughout that year that you applied, but it's only valid for 1 year because you have to apply for FAFSA every single year. So you may get a new EFC every single year. Why do we have an EFC? Well, it's used to determine students' eligibility for federal and state assistance. So if you're eligible for the Pell Grant, you're likely also eligible for your state grants. Where can I find my EFC? You can find it on your student aid report in that box just above. And then you can see how much Pell money you'll receive in that text, as well as if there are any errors that they're suspecting that you entered, they will include those errors in the text. A couple myths that I want to go through. Is it pointless to apply if you make too much money? Absolutely not. Can I use my grandmother instead of my parents because she makes less money? You must use your parents with whom you live with or with whom provides more than 50% of your care. My parents are undocumented, so I cannot apply and won't be eligible for aid. You can absolutely apply if you, the student, are documented, US citizen or an eligible non-citizen. My parents do not file taxes, so I cannot apply or won't be eligible for financial aid. You can still apply for financial aid. You'll just enter that your parents didn't file taxes. My EFC will remain the same year after year. The answer is no. You have to apply to financial aid or for FAFSA every single year. So your EFC may change because if your income changes, your EFC will likely change. I'm currently going through bankruptcy, so my son or daughter cannot apply or won't be eligible for financial aid. You can and should absolutely apply for financial aid if you are currently in bankruptcy. It's actually crucial that you do this because you are able to not only open yourself up for financial aid, but you can share these special circumstances with the college considering that bankruptcy. So you've completed FAFSA, you've received your EFC, and you know how much Pell money you'll receive from the federal government. Now what? Well, you get accepted to college, and then colleges say, let's verify that the information that you put on FAFSA is true and accurate. Why do they want you to do this? They want to make sure that people that are getting the money that they deserve and they're eligible for it. So that the people with whom are getting the money deserve and are eligible for that money. How do they do this? They send you worksheets, these paper worksheets, these forms with the same exact questions that you put on FAFSA. And they're looking to make sure that you are consistent with what you put on FAFSA and what you're putting on the form. They will also ask you for copies of your W-2s. They'll ask you for a tax return transcript, and they'll ask you to name out every single person in the household. They also may ask exactly how much support you've received or paid for child support. You'll know if you are flagged for verification if on your EFC there's a little asterisk, a little star. So it's really important that after you receive your student aid report, that you look for your EFC and you look to see if there's a star. If there's no star, then you can move forward with just an award letter. But if there is a star, expect forms and other worksheets. So again, verification. Colleges will hold award letters until all of the forms are completed. Essentially, they'll hold on to all of that financial aid that you're eligible for until you prove through verification that you are eligible for it. If they find any inconsistencies, they're going to ask for more information. So consistency is key. If you said 4 people live in your household, make sure you're saying 4 people live in the household on the worksheet and that you name all those 4 people. Once you complete verification, you'll receive an award letter. What's included on an award letter? Well, scholarships, loans, grants, and work study. Specifically, scholarships from colleges. You'll also include on the award letter have cost of attendance. This is essentially the cost to go to that school. So cost of attendance is broken down into 2 sections. It's direct cost and indirect cost. So direct cost is everything that you get billed, right? Everything that you pay directly to the university. That includes tuition, fees, cost for the dorm, cost for your meal plan. Indirect cost is also included in cost of attendance, but that's all of the expenses that incur, but that's not directly paid to the school, right? So that's like transportation. You'll know you'll have to spend money on the bus or spend money to go to fly out to the college, but that doesn't get billed to you from the college, right? But that is a cost that will incur throughout that year. Other common costs, books and supplies, living expenses that are not included outside of the dorm, living expenses like your hair, your shampoo, or the cost to eat out, right? And then of course some personal costs. So they take direct cost and they estimate indirect costs and they put that together and they come up with cost of attendance. Here's what a real award letter looks like from one of our Cristo Rey students. We've blocked out the name, and so you can't actually see this information, but I wanted to show you what a real award letter looks like that you'll likely receive in the spring semester. So this student had an EFC of 0. Does that mean that the student's going to pay 0? Not necessarily. It just means that they're then eligible for the full Pell Grant and the MAP Grant and any other grants. So to calculate how much a family is going to pay or what the true cost of an award letter is, you'll need to look at all of the things on the left-hand side, the awards, the loans, and then of course the expenses. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see that this is divided up into the spring semester, the fall semester, and then the total. And that's because families get billed by semester. So you'll get a bill for the fall semester, and then you'll get a bill for the spring semester. So they're showing you what financial aid you'll receive in the fall as well as in the spring. So the big question here is this college affordable for my family? So in order to look at cost of attendance, or in order to calculate this as a refresher, you've got tuition, fees, room and board that gets billed to you. And then you've got indirect expenses that does not get billed to you, but you may likely spend those things. So to calculate the true cost, what you need to do is you need to use this formula. And I'm giving this to you now, so I want you to use this with every award letter that you look at. You'll first want to look at what the direct cost is, tuition, fees, room and board. Then what's the type of financial aid that you are receiving from the college? Both the institutional financial aid and the federal and state financial aid. You'll want to deduct those to get your net price, and then you'll want to subtract any student loans that you plan on taking out. At that point, you'll receive your out-of-pocket cost, which is your true cost. So let's practice this. So here we see that the direct expenses are actually included tuition, room and board and fees. So those are all of the direct costs. That's $56,393. You'll want to put that in the direct cost section. Now let's look for institutional grants and scholarships. Up top, we see, this is from Lycoming College. Up top, we'll see the Lycoming grant for $16,548, and then the presidential scholarship for $28,000 for the year. When we add those two up together, that comes out to $44,548. Now let's add up all the federal and or state grants. That is the federal Pell Grant and the federal SEOG. The student is receiving $6,345 from the federal Pell Grant and $1,000 from the FSEOG. Add those two up together, that comes out to $7,345. That's all of the free money, right? So we'll take all the free money, institutional grants and scholarships, and government grants, and we subtract those from the direct cost. And when we subtract those from the direct cost, what we see is that the net price is $4,500. Net price is essentially what the family has to pay before any loans. So at this point, as a family, you want to figure out, do I want to take out loans or do I not want to take out loans? If you can manage this net price cost, wonderful. But if you need to take out loans, you'll want to then refer to the loans that are offered. And the loans that are offered are the federal subsidized Stafford loan. That one has no interest while the student is in college. And then the federal unsubsidized Stafford loan, which has interest while the student is in college, that accrues while the student's in college. When we add that up together, that's $5,500. So when you subtract the $5,500 from the $4,500, the student would actually receive a refund of $1,000. So the true cost to this family is negative $1,000. I would actually counsel this family to maybe reduce that loan by $1,000 so that they have zero cost to themselves. Some more myths. The most affordable colleges are community colleges. That's false. We just saw a real award letter from a four-year institution, a private four-year institution, who the true cost to this family was negative $1,000. They would get a refund, right? So how do you know which colleges are the most affordable? We created a tool for Cristo Rey students. It's called the College Checklist, and it'll tell you exactly which schools are the most affordable. I encourage you to refer to those. Cost of attendance is what I will have to pay to go to college. Absolutely not, right? False. You have to pay your out-of-pocket cost. And in order to get your out-of-pocket cost, you have to do that calculation that we just did. Once I get the award letter from my dream college, I'm all done with this process. Absolutely not. Get two more college award letters and compare those, right? It's really, really important that you compare all of your financial aid options. Once I get an award letter, that is what I have to pay. No, you have to first look at your out-of-pocket cost and make sure that you're calculating the award letter before anything else. Okay, so let's talk about accepting loans. We talked about loans a little bit. And it's really important that we're making choices about loans that has the most benefit to us, or is the least, that has the least interest rate, right? So this is a really, really nice way to look at financial aid and loans and which ones to choose first, because you actually have an option to choose any ones that you want. So at the lowest end, in terms of cost to you, is scholarships and grants. There's no cost to you. That's free money. You just take that. Great. Second is self-help aid or work study. No cost to you. The cost is essentially you working. So do some work study. Then you want to take out the subsidized Stafford loan. That has zero interest while you're in college, and then 6 months after you stop going to college. Once you've taken out that, if you need a little more money, you can then take out the unsubsidized Stafford loan, which has interest while you're in college, but it's a federal loan. So the loan interest will be really low. And if you ever are eligible for loan forgiveness, this loan would be one of those loans that would be forgiven. If you need more money from that, you would then go to the federal plus loan, parent plus loan, and that you have to apply to. And then if you need any more from that, then you go to the private loans. We encourage families to choose a college where you don't have to surpass the unsubsidized Stafford loan. So essentially, you can go to that school, it's affordable for you, and at maximum, you are taking out the subsidized Stafford loan and the unsubsidized Stafford loan. We don't encourage families to have to to choose a school where you have to take the federal plus loan or private loans. Here's the financial aid for 2023-2024. And so at the very top is institutional need-based scholarships. So that's unlimited. Colleges can give you tons of financial aid, as much financial aid as they want. There's no interest, obviously, because it's a scholarship or a grant. And the application associated to that is FAFSA and the CSS profile. Then there's state grants, okay? For example, if you're in Illinois, you can get a state grant of $7,200, which is ton of money. If you're in California, right, there's Cal grants. You know, I've seen anywhere between $15,000 to $19,000. In order to receive those, you have to complete FAFSA. There's the FSEOG, that's a federal grant, and you can get up to $4,000 a year. You get that by applying to FAFSA. And then there's the Pell Grant, which for the 2023-2024 year is $6,895. And to get that, you have to apply to FAFSA. Now we move into loans. The federal direct subsidized loan and the federal direct unsubsidized loan, you can receive $3,500 for your freshman year. It's 4.99 interest, but that's not while you're in college. That's after you leave college, okay? You automatically are eligible for it as long as you apply for FAFSA. They don't check your credit score, they don't look at anything else, you're automatically offered that amount. And you can take up as much as you want. They're up to $3,500. Then there's the federal direct unsubsidized loan, and you can get up to $2,000 a year. That interest is 4.99. Again, automatically eligible with FAFSA. And that does have interest while you're in college, right? The next two are the ones that we say, stay away from if possible. It's the Parent Plus loan. The interest rate right now is 7.5%. So as you can see, it's higher than the rest of them. And the parent has to apply, and they're checking the parent's credit as well as their income. So parents could be denied. And the second is private loans. So the amount varies, but I've seen interest rates that are anywhere between 3.75 to 13.72, but those aren't fixed interest rates. Those are variable interest rates. And what that means is today it could be 3.75, but tomorrow it could be 10%, and they get to kind of change as they want to, right? So it's really, really risky to take out the private loans. Some more myths. Taking out student federal loans is not a good financial move. That's false. If it gets you access to a really excellent college, and it's the Stafford federal loan for $3,500 and the Stafford unsubsidized federal loan for $2,000 for a total of $5,000, that is a healthy amount of loans that we say it's actually in your best interest if it gets you access to a really great institution. So feel comfortable taking out those two loans. They have a great interest rate, and if forgiven, those are the ones that would be forgiven. I should get a private loan before those federal loans. Absolutely not. Before anything else, get those federal loans, okay? And try to stay away from private loans. I will be in debt forever if I take out student loans. Absolutely not. Especially if you take out a healthy amount of loans, $5,500 every single year, right? Over 4 years would get you a $250 out-of-pocket payment, right? And there are actually a lot of ways that you can get those payments reduced or even forgiven. So absolutely not, you won't be in debt forever. We do not encourage families to take out more than what they need. And we also don't encourage families to take out more than the federal subsidized loan and unsubsidized loan. I don't have credit, so I can't get a student federal loan. That's false. If you are a student and you apply to FAFSA, you are automatically receiving or offered $3,500 in the subsidized loan and $2,000 in the unsubsidized loan. I have to apply for student federal loans. No, you don't have to apply for student federal loans separately. You just have to apply to FAFSA. That's it. I have to accept the Parent Plus loan if I apply for it. If you apply for the Parent Plus loan, they'll just tell you whether or not you are eligible for it and how much you're eligible for, but you actually don't have to receive it or you don't have to accept it. And we'll talk about the Parent Plus loan in just a second. So let's say you take out the $5,500. Great, wonderful. Well, the next thing you need to do is you have to sign a few forms. Those are called the entrance loan counseling and the master promissory note. The entrance loan counseling is for those federal direct loans, and it's for students borrowing those federal direct loans. And it's completed at studentaid.gov, and it's essentially a short quiz, but they give you the answers to the quiz. So you just have to sort of walk through the reading and the quiz. It takes about 20 minutes. And it's a way to confirm that you understand the rules and the regulations to that loan that you're signing. The master promissory note is a legal binding agreement that you, the student, will repay your student loans, unless, of course, the government forgives them. 2 references are required. 2, personal references are required, but those are not co-signers. Those are just people that you have to list out. They're not going to talk to that person. They're not checking that person's credit. They're just 2 personal references. And you must complete the master promissory note before the loans get dispersed. So essentially you can't get that $5,500, $3,500 in the subsidized, $2,000 in the unsubsidized until you complete the master promissory note. More information at the link on this slide. And finally, once you've completed that, you get to the financial aid distribution. Essentially, you receive your financial aid. Some more myths. I will make college affordable by applying to outside scholarships. Oops, absolutely not. The way to make college really affordable is by 1, getting really good grades, being a leader within your campus, right, to get merit scholarships. And the second is by applying to the colleges that give the most financial aid. Again, check out that college checklist tool to see which colleges give the most financial aid. There is no appeal process or ability to negotiate my award letter. Absolutely not. If you receive an award letter and you really like that school, give them a call and feel free to negotiate your award letter. Your college counselor can help you. I will have to pay my out-of-pocket in one lump sum. No. Whatever that out-of-pocket is, they break it down by semester, or if you want, you can use a payment plan. My financial aid will be distributed automatically based off of what my award letter is. No. If you remember in the process, the award letter was process number 3, but there were 3 more steps that you had to take before you received your financial aid. And finally, my out-of-pocket cost remains the same year after year. Unfortunately, that's not true because you have to apply to financial aid every single year. So it's really important that you go through this process in October every single year. Again, this is just a reminder of what this process looks like. And then on this, on these slides, which I'm putting in the chat now, are a couple award letters, other examples for you to practice how to calculate an award letter. And you can see what those amounts are here. So I encourage you to refer to these slides and then practice on your own. I'm now going to jump into questions to see if we have any questions in the chat. If you do have questions, feel free to ask them now. How do you access your student aid? Perfect, your SAR. So the way to access that is by going to studentaid.gov and you'll sign in. And once you sign in, if you've completed your FAFSA, you should see a PDF form that says studentaid.gov. Also, once you complete your FAFSA, you'll get an email with a PDF of your student aid form. So look for that email. But you first have to complete FAFSA in order to receive your student aid report, your SAR. What about financial aid for kids in foster care? Great question. If a student is in foster care, they're likely identified as an independent student, not a dependent student. And so when they complete FAFSA, they'll just use their own taxes. And if they didn't file taxes because they didn't work, essentially they say, hey, I didn't work. I didn't receive, I didn't work and I don't have any taxes to submit. And so truly, if they're in foster care and they don't have any taxes, they'll be eligible for the full amount of financial aid for both the Pell and any state grants that they may be eligible for. I highly, highly encourage students who are independent, essentially in foster care or a similar situation, to complete FAFSA as soon as possible. Great question. Okay, so we are just over time. If there's any last questions, please ask them now. If not, what I do want to encourage you to do is on that presentation, I've included a list of the contact information for every college counselor in the Cristo Rey Network. And so if you haven't done so already, please introduce yourself to your college counselor. If you're a parent, please introduce yourself to the college counselors and they can help you with your financial aid application. Thank you. Oh, I have a couple questions. Is there an expert that can help with FAFSA? Your college counselors are actually certified, trained experts in FAFSA. Yes, talk to your college counselor. Where can we find the recording for the Zoom? Wonderful question. Actually, Sarah will be sharing that information shortly.
Yes, I want to thank Bianca for such a wonderful presentation and for all of you for joining us. When you close this session, after you close the window, there will be a very quick 5-question survey. We encourage you to fill that out for us if you can. And to answer the question, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other session recordings at strivescan.com/Cristo-Rey. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Bianca, and we hope you have a great rest of the evening.